Welcome to Bowling Tech News. My name's James, and today we'll be talking about the recent outbreak of human malware that we're seeing right now throughout the United States and the world, and how it's affecting bowling at this point. At this point, there's been several cancellations, there's been several postponements. USBC has suspended and or postponed the USB National Tournament until May the 1st and suspended the college, the intercollegiate team and singles bowling championships indefinitely. USBC has taken further steps and suspended all non-mission critical travel of USBC staff until further notice. These are huge steps, and there's also guidance that the USBC has given to local associations, and that will change over time. They're going to be updating that as the CDC updates theirs over human malware. And just on a side note, I actually love the word human. I love that human malware as a way of getting around YouTube's restriction on talking about the human malware that's currently going on. That was originated, I believe, by Stephen Burke at Gamers Nexus. They have a fabulous website and a fabulous YouTube channel dealing with tech news, and it just struck me as hilarious that they called it human malware. Further on in bowling news, PBA is still planning to have their tournaments at this time, but the tournaments will be without any spectators. The only people that are going to be there are the bowlers, the staff of the news, the sports media, and the proprietor. There will not be any spectators there, so the crowds that you're used to seeing on the sides and behind the bowlers won't be there. And that's just an abundance of caution. I have personally contacted the Hoinky Classic in Cincinnati, Ohio, and the Music City tournament in Nashville, Tennessee. They are still expecting their tournaments to go on at the times and dates in which they are already scheduled, but they said that they are monitoring the situation carefully and will follow guidance and will determine whether or not they're going to continue to have those tournaments at those dates and times. But at the current date and time, which today they will have them with the day of filming, which is today, March 16th. The current situation with the CDC, they're changing their recommendations daily, and then sometimes within hours of each other in these recommendations. Currently, the recommendations from the CDC are that no gatherings over 50 for the next 8 weeks be held. This is to mitigate and to slow down the progression of the human malware. The issue is that they don't think they can stop it per se. There are very few treatments or no known cure. So they're essentially trying to mitigate this human malware. USBC is following many of those guidances and thus postponing things and canceling things, and this is going to be an ongoing issue. So my advice at this point is for if you're a organizer, not a tournament director, but an organizer of these, to make sure that you keep those who are going to your tournament informed of the things that are going on and whether or not the tournament directors are making changes to these. These changes can come quickly. They can come at a moment's notice based on guidance by state, federal, and local authorities, as well as just common sense. And even if the USBC decides to make these changes and order these tournaments down. Now, just keep in mind that this is something that is rapidly changing. That this is something that is fairly dangerous for many people. And make sure that your bowlers are informed. Make sure that your leagues consult with your local health care providers, your local health departments and authorities, and try not to panic. Try to make sure that that all of your decisions that you're making are based on science and based on recommendations by authorities in this. Don't panic. Don't freak out over this. We all need to stay calm and cool and collected and try to carry on our normal lives as safely as possible. Now, when it comes to tournaments, now you have to keep in mind that these tournaments, if they postpone some of these or they move some of these, some of these dates, the bowlers are going to need to come into other times and dates. So you might want to, try to work with my advice is to try to work with the tournament directors once this all starts to calm down and pan out a little bit, and they get a much clearer picture of what they're going to do and what they need to do. Work with them to try to accommodate them. So, try not to hold your reservations. If you know that you're not going to use 2 of those reservations, don't hold them to the last minute trying to get those last 2. You want to really try to release those as quickly as possible so that these tournament directors can find the dates and times for those folks who may be in this period where some of these tournaments are postponed or canceled or whatever, and they can enter in those dates and times. This is the kind of stuff that really needs to be worked on with a cooperative effort between the organizers of your groups and the tournaments and tournament directors. Just keep in mind that they're trying to accommodate as many people as possible, and that accommodation allows the prize fund to be larger. But you need some of these tournaments are going to have to make up some of these dates and times. This is not something that can be just made up out of thin air. Some of these times are limited by, like for instance, I was in contact with the Hoinky Classic. They run for a very, very long period of time, and then they end in November. They can't add extra dates because they bump up against holidays and such. So you really want to try to accommodate them because they've accommodated you. And I know that you've reserved these dates and times, but not all of those reservations are going to be needed. Not all those time slots or reservations are going to be needed in most cases. In some cases, like for instance, when I organize mine, sometimes we turn in 2, sometimes we turn in 5, back over and say, okay, we know we're not going to need these. We do that. We try to do that months in advance so that they can then say, okay, we can accommodate this many people. We're going to try to get that done with my groups. We're going to try to get that done a little earlier this year and try to make sure that we can accommodate those who may have to be moved from different dates to our dates. And this is kind of a stacking effect. So just be cognizant of that. These tournament directors, they're only trying to look out for what's best for us all. And if they need to move some people, try to accommodate them. When it comes to the PBA, they have certain guidelines, and BPAA has certain guidelines that that they have to follow. If the local, federal, or state governments say they have to close, they have to close. There's nothing they can do about it. No reason to be angry, upset, holler, fuss, fight about it. This is something that they have to do because of legalities and mitigation reasons. We don't want people to get sick because they went to a bowling tournament, but then at the same time we don't want to not hold a bowling tournament or hold bowling dates because of fear and fear only. So we really need to take a look at this from a holistic standpoint of bowling and try to accommodate those that we can accommodate and try to help those who are trying their best to only do how do I put this, do their best with what they're working with at this point. Now, just keep in mind, like I said, some of these tournaments, some of these things may be coming up. I know there are several large tournaments that come up, during the next 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. We have the Southern, the Southeastern, Turtles. These are all coming up fairly soon. There are some in the state of Tennessee that are coming up soon. We've already had our state tournament, so our state tournament's over, so we don't have to worry about that. But there are some states that haven't had their state tournaments. Now, all of these things may be pushed, they may be moved around or whatever, but just keep in mind that these things are fluid. It's a very fluid situation. So try to work out with them and try to sit down. Now, when it comes to tournament directors, my advice to tournament directors would be very simple. Get out as much information as you can as quickly as possible to organizers and individuals that are coming to your tournament events. Try to not make rash decisions, but if you're forced to make a decision, make the decision that you have to make, and then get that information out quickly. Don't wait 2-3 days. Don't even wait an hour. Get that information out to your mailing lists as quickly as possible so that we bowlers can turn around and do the things that we need to do to cancel our reservations at hotels and restaurants and all that kind of thing. And you know, because there's a lot of things that go into that. These inconveniences are inconveniences. They're just that. They're not life-ending things, you know, from cancellation of a bowling tournament or not going to a bowling tournament for the first time in decades or whatever. These are inconveniences. These are not things that that you should risk your life for. So if the tournament has determined that it is too risky, hey guys, look. It is what it is when it is. They have no control over it. They have no control over it. This human malware is throughout the world. It's global. I think the last time I checked, it was 160,000 infections worldwide, and that number is growing by leaps and bounds. So let's just try to keep our heads about us. Communicate. That is the key. And make sure that when you're organizing it, that when you're organizing groups, that you communicate with the groups, the individuals in the groups. The tournament directors don't need, 20,000 people who are coming up to their bowling events over the course of 6, 7, 8 months. They don't need them calling them and asking them. That they have a lot of other things on their hands. They have a lot of different things. So people who are organizers of groups going to these tournaments, keep your bowlers in constant contact. I've sent out emails telling the bowlers that go with me what's going on. You know, we're still waiting confirmation. This is the confirmation that we've received. This is the confirmation that we haven't received. As of this time, this is what's going on. So just keep them involved in this. You want to make sure that they understand and know what's going on, because ultimately we want to limit the number of emails and phone calls that these tournaments are seeking. And as of right now, I'm going to repeat this. I talked to the Hoinky Classic in Cincinnati, Ohio, and the Music City in Nashville, Tennessee, and both of those are saying that there are still the times and dates that they have on their postings are still valid and still good. If you have reservations, they're still valid and still good, but they are monitoring the situation very carefully and may make determinations based upon recommendations by local, state, and federal authorities in the health for the health of bowlers. They don't want to endanger anyone. So I'll keep you posted. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give it a thumbs down. But make sure you tell me what's going on in the comments below, what you think, how I can make these types of videos better, and the things that I did right and the things that I did wrong, because I can't improve without that, without your feedback. And until next time, keep them rolling. Imagine getting arrested for bowling. Yeah. Honest officer, my bowling wasn't that bad. Yes, it was. Well, that stinks. This is insane. Yeah, human malware. It sucks.